Welcome back to the Realm of Unpopular Opinions. It is on me for wearing a bit longer sleeves, even though it's a hot day, but it's okay. I think like the remnants of the AC are still in my room. Today we're going to be talking about films and TV series, which is fun. It's slightly different, but it's still storytelling. I did one video like this last year, and again, ironically, it was one of my most watched videos, and by watched, I mean still under 1,000 because that is just the standard that I am used to because I refuse to pay for advertising. Anyway, it is still one of my most watched videos, so apparently it is kind of fun to talk about. But this year I thought I'd do it right and we'd actually do it like the best series and films I've seen in the first half of the year. Last year I sort of did it strangely because I did it like I think at the end of September or beginning of October, so it wasn't like the second half of the year and it wasn't the first half. So this year we're doing it differently. This is to think of this as the mid-year book tag, but for films, and it's just going to be the good stuff because I don't really feel like talking about the bad stuff. I like to I watch a lot of stuff, including rewatches, so I don't like to remember the bad things that I've seen. And it's easier to forget than books because it's way less of a commitment. It lasts for a shorter amount of time and it takes less brain power to watch something rather than process the words. So let's get into it. We have some films. I think I have like about an equal amount of like films and TV series. Not that many anime, actually. So I will like divide those things into 3 categories and let's get into it. And hopefully I won't ramble too much because we just know that I tend to do that. I could have called my channel like Wheel of Rambles. Let's start with films. I will give you like a bit of a context for these. I won't tell you when I watched them because I don't think that's that relevant, but if I do remember, I might note it down. So the first film is this. I'm not going to pronounce it. It's called like The Samurai. Now, me and my friend, like my best friend, we don't really have the same tastes in like films and TV series. We very rarely have something to watch together. So what we do is we go to like older or smaller movie theaters where we live where they play old films. Sometimes they have like a director cycle, an actor cycle. Like this was the actor cycle for Alain Delon. I do not want to pronounce that again. That was the actor cycle. I think he died last year, so like they did like an actor cycle where they played his films for a month, and we went to see this one. We were supposed to see another one, but we just didn't end up going. Surprisingly, even though it isn't one of my favorite films that I've ever seen, I surprisingly really, really, really enjoyed it. He's known for being pretty, and he is pretty. She found him really pretty. I personally really loved his voice. You can see like how we have different things that we look for. She enjoyed him visually. I enjoyed him. What is the auditorily? I do not know how to say that word in English. I enjoyed the sound of his voice. Like he has a very pretty voice in French. And it was a decent film. Shockingly, surprisingly, it was actually like a decent film. I liked the ending. It was well put together. I quite enjoyed it. So it was a good time. I wish we had seen like the other one. I think it's like a newer one, but either way, it was kind of interesting. I think in this film, he's also like his love interest is his actual wife at the time, but either way, it was very interesting. And I really like going with her to these like events because very often they are films that I would never voluntarily watch. And I am sometimes actually pleasantly surprised when I do enjoy them. The next one is one that I dragged her to that she did not enjoy. That's, I think, the only film that we saw together in like the main expensive movie theater that plays like new releases. And it is Small Things Like These. I never read the book, but I did know of the author and the books, obviously. And I don't actually like Cillian Murphy that much, but I loved the film. Okay, I loved it. I think I teared up like 2 or 3 times. I loved how the film was put together and how oppressively slow it is. Like that's what she didn't like about this film. She didn't like how slow and like dragging it was, even though it's actually a really short film. I think like an hour and a half. I loved it. Okay, I loved the purpose in how slow and uncomfortable and unpleasant it is. at certain moments. I shockingly liked Cillian Murphy. I've found it sometimes with actors, this is like just a little tidbit, but sometimes when actors don't really use their real accent in the stuff that they're in, I tend not to like them, which is weird because they're good at accents. Like this happened with both Cillian Murphy and with what's his name? I forget. Colin Farrell. Both Irish, which is kind of ironic, yes, but I've never seen them like with their actual accents, and I always found them a little unlikable, or a lot unlikable in some cases. But then I watched them like in their own setting. Like I think I watched Colin Farrell for the first time and loved him in Banshees of Inisherin, and I watched Cillian Murphy for the first time in Small Things Like These, which is something that he apparently really petitioned to do. He loves the books, and he really wanted this to get made. And he plays an actual Irishman, which he doesn't do a lot. And I liked him. Okay? No one was more surprised than me because I genuinely don't really like anything that he's in. Loved the film. Loved the film. I read the book afterwards, which I didn't like as much. But obviously it is based on the book. So whoever did this, like, really, really nailed the presentation of the story and how it feels to watch it and the catharsis in the end. I genuinely teared up like 2 or 3 times in the movie theater. I loved the film. She did not. She didn't like the subject matter and she didn't like how slow it was. So that's fair because I dragged her to this one and I'm happy that she went with me, but I loved it. I absolutely loved it, even though I didn't expect to. And after this, I watched like the Magdalene Sisters. This is just like a bit of a side note because it's connected. Because of this, I watched the Magdalene Sisters. One of the main actresses in that film is the wife of Cillian Murphy's character in Small Things Like These. It's the same subject matter, like the laundries in Ireland. That film was a whole other league. That was like nauseating to watch. So I guess if that topic interests you, you can watch it. And I have to say, after that, Geraldine McEwen, I think that's her name. I need a while before I can see her as Marple again because she was a little bit too good in that film. Speaking of the main like Mother Superior in Small Things Like These, ate it up. I just loved everything about this film. The next one I will just briefly mention, but Night Hunter with like Henry Cavill and Ben Kingsley, and I loved the first half of this. Like it just so happened that me and my mother, and I think yeah, we were watching it and we stopped like at the first half because she fell asleep and she left and we were going to watch it the next day. The first half was phenomenal. I was like, this is one of the best films I've watched in a while. Like excellent, 10 out of 10, so good and so well written. And then the second half happened. So I just thought I'd mention it because like the first half was exceptional. I loved it so much. I just wish the second half didn't exist. So thought I'd give that a quick mention. I mean, you might like the second half, but I most definitely did not. It like bumped it down from like a 10-star film to a like 5 or 6. So really not good. Next one is a bit like complicated to talk about, and like you will see why in a second. Murder by Death. It's like an old film. I was on a kick of like old Maggie Smith films. Doesn't matter. When I watched it alone by myself, randomly, I think because I was surprised and I expected to hate it, I really found it funny and enjoyable and I really liked it. Then the other day when I watched it with my parents, it was not as funny anymore. First of all, they did not like it, which fair enough, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I would hate it on a second viewing. And I won't say that I hated it on a second viewing, but so much stuff just did not land anymore. You know, like some comedies have this effect, not all of them. That's why they're not like top tier comedies. But after you watch them again and you're no longer surprised by how much you're enjoying it, when that element like goes away of not knowing what comes next, you're like, this is just not that funny. And like on the side of cringy rather than funny. I still think it has its moments and the actors are absolutely excellent, and I kind of love the quirk of like famous detectives all being together. But the second viewing kind of ruined it. I wish I had watched it just once because I watched it by myself like at night and I found it super funny and enjoyable, but the next time it was fine. I didn't hate it the next time. It just did not hit the same. Absolutely. Like the things that I remembered being hilarious were just sort of like mildly funny. It's always disappointing, but that's the biggest risk with comedies for me, which is why like my favorite comedies, and there are few, are stuff that I've like watched ad nauseum because I want to reconfirm that they are actually really good and well put together and that I still find them funny. Because I hate it when this happens, you know? Especially when you watch it with other people, because I told them like this was funny and this was super fun, let's watch it. And then not only did they not like it, but I didn't like it that much either on the second viewing, and you're kind of not even embarrassed. But I just hate it when that happens. When something that sparked joy just should not be revisited because you will lose that joy. At least I did, but I still think the actors were great, and I loved my first time watching it, so maybe give it a try. And if you do find it funny, maybe don't rewatch it. This one is a shock. I think on like a similar occasion, like again, yes, me and my parents actually watch a lot of stuff together, like at night for like an hour or two, like they're there and I'm there, and we just watch stuff because I have like I'm the only one that has like a TV and it's a big screen. Doesn't matter. But I said like let's try Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, and they hated the beginning. They were like let's watch something else, and I was like okay, I'll watch the rest later on my own, and I did, and shockingly, this was a really good film. Like, if you know exactly what it is, which is like just a replaying of Pride and Prejudice, like literally line for line, act for act, with like occasional zombie fighting scenes. And it's a little bit cringy at times, but my God, is it pretty. I don't know why, but I really, really liked how pretty it was. Also, the main actors, like Sam Riley and what's her name? Me with actors, it's like young Donna from Mamma Mia. I forget what she's called. Love both of them. Okay, so them being like Darcy and Elizabeth. Lily James? No, I don't think that's the name. Doesn't matter. Either way, I love both of them. I love both of them. So them being like Lizzie and Darcy and playing off each other, I really love. I also love like Sam Riley. I adore him. Like since Maleficent, when I watched Maleficent when I was like 13, I love him to bits. He's a great actor, but he has unconventional looks. He was perfect for Maleficent, for like DLL, because he kind of does look like a crow. He looks like a crow boy. So he has unconventional looks, and I really like that because the one gripe that I have like with 2005 Pride and Prejudice is that Matthew McFadden is just far too pretty in that role, you know, like which isn't a problem necessarily, but I don't know, like the misanthropic Darcy being a bit more like strange looking is something that I really enjoyed. I enjoyed the film. It's just Pride and Prejudice with occasional scenes of zombie fighting. It's weird. It happens exactly how you would think. It's fun though. It's really fun. It's really pretty. And like the few scenes of Darcy and Elizabeth that they keep, obviously, and just copy entirely from the book, I really enjoyed. Like that scene where he comes to propose for the first time by insulting her. And they actually end up fighting here because they're both like martial artists trained in different martial arts, and they fight throughout that whole scene, like pin each other against the ground, the wall, or whatever, kick each other while that scene is happening. Oh, I loved it. The tension and chemistry was excellent in that scene. I really, really loved their their dynamic. Is it a bit more Americanized? A little bit. Like they make out a lot in the ending. It was like a little like, yeah, we get it, you know? Like I prefer subtle romance rather than like head-on romance, but that doesn't matter. I weirdly enjoyed this film. Like the politics and the zombie thing just went out the window at some point. It was like, we're escalating the conflict. Why not? Like it's not too deep. It's not too deep. There isn't that much world building. It's just, I feel like this guy just wanted to rewrite Pride and Prejudice and add like some elements that would allow for Elizabeth and Darcy to be martial artists. It doesn't matter. Also, Jane and Bingley, great, cute. I loved it. It's enjoyable. The actors are good. The cinematography is really to my liking. The aesthetic and the vibe, I really, really enjoyed. The martial arts were fine. I don't know how to articulate this one. It's one of those films that's like wasn't well received, but when you watch it like with the right expectations, knowing exactly what it's going to offer you, I was satisfied. It was good. I'd watch it again, and I love the main actors, which does actually kind of help. The last one that I'll also like briefly touch on is The Accountant too. I wanted to watch this in theaters because we watched like a few years ago, we watched The Accountant 1 on Netflix. I loved The Accountant 1. We watched it like again before we watched the second one. Adored it. Great. I love The Accountant 1. And I wanted to watch this in theaters, but I didn't have anyone to go with, and I'm not that obsessed about going to the theater on my own. I don't know why. I just don't like it, and it's expensive, so it's very easy to convince me not to go. So we watched it as soon as it like came online. I loved The Accountant too. Like it's a very different vibe. It takes some getting used to because like the accountant aspect is a minor aspect of the second film compared to the first one. You have to get used to the vibe. At first it was like this is kind of off, but that's just because it's different. So like once you get used to how different it is and the vibe and the writing, it is the same writers, the same actors, and you can tell. Like I loved the film. Okay, not as much as the first one, but like everyone said kind of in the reviews, if you like the first one, you're going to like the second one. I love the expanded time we have with the brothers. Like that was my favorite thing. Like the whole tough, gruff assassin guy, like being a cat person and actually just adoring his older brother. Like I loved the dynamic. I enjoyed that we got more time to spend with them. Like the whole bar scene where he dances like reminded me of that beginning scene in season 6 of Dexter. It was so good, so fun. I loved their relationship. I loved the film overall. These films, while they are action films, which I appreciate greatly because I don't like action films, dialed down on the action. Like there's maybe 2 instances in this film where it's full on action, and I was severely bored during those 2 instances, but they're not too long, and again, just 2 in a over 2-hour long film. So that was really decent. There is like a focus on the actual relationship and the stuff that's going on. I loved it. I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. I'm glad that all the actors came back, that the same writers came back. It's so weird to get a sequel like what, 8 or 9 years after the original. And I can't say that it was needed. Like the first one didn't really need a sequel, but it was appreciated. Okay, I really liked the sequel. It was great. Ben Affleck is great. I quite like him actually, and I enjoyed it. For an American film, I haven't watched American stuff except like rewatches of older stuff in years. Really good. Not too severe on the gore and violence, not that much action, no gratuitous nudity, which you get everywhere if you watch American stuff right now. So really enjoyed it, really loved it, and I am happy. Not on the level of the first one, but just the fact that we get the entire film of just the brothers, which is what you only get in the ending of the first one. It made me happy, and I'm so glad that it was actually good. I really like the ending and the sentiment, and happy to say that the sequel holds up. We'll talk about let's go to series. I will talk about anime in the end because it is its own separate category. I watch anime alone. I don't really discuss it with anyone, so I will probably get a little bit ranty with those. But let's just get into it. The first series that I loved and devoured this year, it was The Capture. Now, since we watch almost exclusively like British, mostly British, some French crime, mystery, thriller series, mostly crime and mystery, I was shocked that we had not found this before, but again, I am sometimes very happy that I find series before I have to wait for more seasons. Currently, The Capture is complete. Apparently, there's going to be a new season, but it's not necessary because the main conflict is resolved in the seasons that are currently out. I loved The Capture. First of all, Holiday Granger has never been bad in a single role in her life, even when the film is the worst film you've ever seen. She will deliver. I love her to bits. Okay, she will never deliver bad performance and will be worth the watch even if everything else is absolute dog shit. So I was going to watch it as soon as I knew it was her, but there's other like fairly popular actors, and the story itself, while a little bit creepy and unsettling, especially like in this time of like AI and deepfakes, this is a series like about government use of deepfakes called like correction, deepfaking certain events and camera CCTV recordings. I loved the series. How it was written, the tension, how clever it is, like the acting, the story, how it doesn't feel like they reached the conclusion, solved the problem easily. Like it feels earned. Highly recommend the series. I don't want to say anything else. I think Aidan Turner? No, it's not Aidan Turner. That's Keeley from The Hobbit, but the other guy, like who's Newt Scamander's brother in the Fantastic Beasts film, is in the first season. Aidan Thomas. I do not know actor names. He was also great, but yeah, highly recommend the series if you're into that kind of thing. It is the next day, as you can most probably see. My mic died. I did not feel like doing it last night. It is currently 35 degrees and I'm still drinking tea. I just love tea so much, so nothing will really stop me from drinking tea now. Moving to the side so we can properly talk. I forgot one film last night, and that was Doubt. Now, this is a very well-acclaimed Oscar film that I'd never heard of, hilariously enough, even though Meryl Streep and what is he called? Philip Seymour Hoffman, I think, something like that. Plutarch Evansby, basically. But I watched this film. Finally, I loved it. It's very like if you watch crime, this is a very run-of-the-mill ordinary topic. Like it isn't anything shocking or new to me, but especially since I watched like Crow Girl this year, it was masterfully written. You can tell they're just having like an acting contest. I loved the aesthetic of it, and it was just super well done, very simply implied and put together where you know everything that's happened. Like there is actually no doubt about the plot of this film, but it's so well put together and dynamic and engaging to watch, and both simple but in a complex way. You know how when some books or films are simplistic, but it only comes out that way because a lot of thought was put into it. Like it takes a lot actually to make a well-written film simple, if I'm making any sense. So masterclass. I think there's also Viola Davis and Amy Adams. So it's just like an acting class of a film, okay? Nothing shocking, nothing new if you're familiar with that kind of topic in general, but masterful. The next one's a bit more like ordinary, I suppose, but if you're into Agatha Christie, I think I've watched every Agatha Christie adaptation and remake under the sun. I've been watching like Marple and Poirot since I was a child, like for as long as I can remember, essentially, because like my parents had all the DVDs, so I just watched them quite a bit. Towards Zero is like the newest one, I suppose. Like they do mini series out of stuff that used to be just episodes in those series. Now this has a very star-studded cast too. There's like what is Angelica Houston, I think that's her name, and the star for me was obviously Matthew Rhys, who was Darcy in Death Comes to Pemberley. Like I love that guy so much. He just has a face and acting style that appeals. I don't know how to say it. Sometimes I have a very inarticulate reason for why an actor really suits my preferences, but I love Matthew Rhys. And he plays sort of like a dejected, very depressed, borderline, if not truly suicidal detective. And I'm not sure if he replaces, I know it's a Marple episode, but I'm not sure if in the books there even is a detective or if they just made Marple the detective in the series. But he plays the detective. There's the island, there's an impossible crime, it's just a lot of fun, that episode. One thing that has to be said though is It's a little bit like dramatized, obviously, because they had to make a miniseries out of a plot that isn't that detailed, but it was great. That's an alarm. The next one that is the most massive surprise that like I had this year, it is Sherlock and Daughter. Now, I watched the pilot of this, really didn't like the pilot, like I think like a lot of people, because it hinted that it would be the stereotypical, CW American thing, where like a very popular, very smart character gets like a young successor who's just gonna put them down and be better at them than everything. So I didn't watch it after the pilot, and then I think 2 weeks later, when episode 3 came out, I was like, okay, maybe like I'll try it again. I have nothing else to watch tonight. It grew on me, okay? Like, just to episode 3, it grew on me because it proved it wasn't actually that. Like, the creators didn't disrespect Sherlock just to create, like, Amelia's character. He is still smart and clever. He is still Sherlock Holmes. And he has, like, his own plot within the series. It's not just that it's about his daughter. And the thing that I loved was the integration between the characters. Like, she does actually learn from him. She's open about her mistakes. She admits when she's wrong. She doesn't put him down, even though she is a little petulant sometimes, because he does know better. And like, she listens to him and she takes his advice, and he appreciates her input and he appreciates what she brings to the table. Like, it turns out to be more of a partnership than the cliche of the young character has come to replace the iconic character. And I really, really appreciated that. Also, their bond is developed, and that she is his daughter. Like, this isn't a spoiler. She's his daughter from the beginning. It's in the title. But when you do actually earn the confession, it's quite sweet and charming. And you have Thulis as Sherlock. You have Dougray Scott as Moriarty, which I love that actor too. He's Scottish, but I mean, he's obviously British here because he's Moriarty. You have, what actor? I forgot. The actor who plays Watson is just so sweet looking. He looks like a lovable dwarf from The Hobbit. So I loved the main characters. They really grow on you. But one thing that has to be noted is that if you like all the other Sherlock Holmes adaptations, like I do, they're all very different. They all have very different tones, very different focuses, very different time periods. And it has to be said that this new series is also very different. So I would recommend it if you like Sherlock Holmes, but I would say keep it in mind that it's a lot more like lighthearted than the other adaptations have been, and a lot different, because to be fair, like, I don't know if like canonically or just popularly, but the characters of like Sherlock and Moriarty are viewed kind of as, like, asexual intellectuals, which I love, actually. I really do quite love. There's not that much of asexuality in media. But that aside, you have to like stretch a little bit to believe that both of them would have like female love interests to be able to have children in this universe, but they still kind of keep the characters as what they are while still bending it a little so that it would be rational and like feasible for them to have children. So you just need to know that it's very different to what the other adaptations are, but it still kind of, I feel like, pays homage to them, because the soundtrack has several tones from like all the different adaptations, I think from BBC Sherlock and from the Downey Jr. films, or at least it felt like that to me. The soundtrack is very reminiscent of that, and I loved it. It grew on me. Not the best thing I've ever seen, but definitely like a charming show for fans of Sherlock Holmes, and I think it's a worthy addition that I think will be looked down upon and might not get renewed because of the pilot, which is such a goddamn shame. Now, a series that I never would have watched because it's so not my genre, and that is The Game. It's a spy thriller miniseries. It has so many favorite famous actors in it. Like, if you watch any British TV series, like all of these actors are known to you. I think like the main standout is Stryker from X-Men. That's where I know him from anyway, and from Shetland. But you also have like the tall, lanky, white, posh, rich Eton boy of the day. Like, I don't mean that as an offensive thing, but it feels like it's a genre of actors who all look like they've been to prep school and then went to drama school. Like, I feel like he could be in a class with Matthew Beard, and I wouldn't be able to tell the difference between them. Like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. They all have a similar vibe to me, and they all could have gone to the same school. The guy who plays Sandman as well. They just look like that. Anyway, the series is clever, very well put together. It feels like a thriller and a spy flick without being too cliche. As someone who doesn't watch many and doesn't really like it, I really enjoyed the build up to everything. And there are several scenes that could have been very cliche, but turn out as you'd actually want them to be, which I appreciated, because oftentimes when you're watching a scene and you're like, I wish he'd do this, but they never do this. He actually does several things that I thought like that. And I loved the ending. I feel like it was a very realistic take on what the job makes of you, I suppose. And it was a very decent ending. And I felt very true to what would happen if you did this job, and the mistrust that you have, essentially. And like triple agent, four times agent, you know, like who's working for who. It's also, I think, set during the Cold War, so like the mistrust is even worse because there were like agents everywhere. So really, really well done. Similarly to The Capture, it's one of those things that I don't know why it slipped through the radar, why I didn't watch it sooner, because so many series in the UK, which is the main stuff that I watch, you watch, and you're like, this is full of famous actors. The production quality is stunning and it's well written. So I wonder how I'd never heard of it. So a hidden gem. Perhaps it wasn't a hidden gem when it came out, but it certainly is now because I found it by accident. The elephant in the room that I was going to talk about ever since, like I told you, that I watch every British TV series that has to do with crime, Department Q. Like, I had this signed into my calendar since I found out that Matthew Good, another one of my favorite actors, I loved him in everything that he's been in, is going to finally be playing a detective. And not only that, it's going to be set in Scotland, specifically in Edinburgh. And there's going to be other famous Scottish actors that I love to listen to. It's just, this was everything and more for me specifically. Like, this was tailor-made for me and my parents, who I watched the series with, to love. Okay, well done, humorous. Like, the main three, like the main trio of Department Q, get along so well. I love their dynamic. I love the characters individually. It's so good. But there is one aspect of it that my dad specifically didn't like, and I mean, I noticed, but we'll get to that. And that is that it has an American aspect to it, which is graphic violence, like to an extreme. Like, British shows don't have that. Like, that's a very American thing. Like, whenever there's really like hardcore, like graphic violence or sexual content, I'm like, that's a very American thing. Okay, like, that's why I moved over to the UK for my content, because they generally don't have that. Like, they do sometimes, very rarely, but it's either brief or very contextually necessary. Like, it's a very American thing that if you move away from American content, you will notice is a very American thing. And it felt like it was sort of catering to that audience, because like UK crime dramas, yes, very popular. They produce like 1 million of them. But I feel like it's a very British thing. So because it's on Netflix and because it has like big actors, I feel like they wanted to market it to the US and Canada like as well, for some reason, to make it international. So they added like a lot of unusual violence for that sort of genre in the UK. And I mean, now thinking back again, yes, it's not that it's never there, but it was cartoonish in a way that only American media makes it. Like, I didn't mind it too much because I found it cartoonish and sort of funnily done. Like, it isn't hideous, it's just, I have no other word other than cartoonish, but my dad in particular minded that. He was like, it was unnecessarily graphic, and I do agree in hindsight, but again, I didn't sort of mind it because I didn't really take it seriously, and I was just really happy to have Matthew Good as a detective. But that is something to note, that when you move away from like a certain style of content, you can notice when series are catering to that target audience. Now, Americans would think this is so tame. This is like pathetic levels of gore. But trust me, when you watch like 99 out of 100 UK shows, this is like a big step in the wrong direction. If you don't enjoy that kind of thing. So something to note, that's the one thing that I feel like I have to highlight. There was luckily no nudity, which, like, thank God. Like, British TV series, especially crime series, are supremely dark at times, like so many dark subject matters, but it's talked about, not shown, which Americans don't do. So I was grateful. I remember, this is just going to be like a closing comment. I remember when my dad was complaining about the violence, I was like, I'm just grateful that I didn't have to see anyone's ass throughout the duration of the series, which I was genuinely surprised by. I was like expecting it any minute, but I was so happy about that. That's my, like, where I draw the line. Gore I can handle to a certain extent because I watch a lot of anime, but I'm so happy no one got naked on camera. Like, thank God. The last one before we get to anime is like a new one that we are currently watching, that is this series. I will just call it Astrid because I'm not going to pronounce French. So it is a French TV series that the British also like did an adaptation of, which was called Patience. They did it this year. My mother watched it. I did not like the main actress, so I just didn't watch it. I didn't like the vibe of it. But she told me like that it was based on a French TV series, so we were like, let's just give it a shot. It is so well done. Okay, it is so well done. It's a French TV series, so like it has a little bit of a different vibe, but it's very similarly made to all the crime series that I watch from the UK. So well written, so like it's about an autistic character and about autism and how she works with the police. So well written, so beautifully rendered. Like, the relationship between the two main characters is just so sweet to watch develop, and there's something about how they interact and the little things that matter between them in their interactions, like when she gives her a birthday present and what that means for Astrid. I just appreciate it so much. Like, it's such a beautiful series while also being a crime TV series, and it is competent. It's not like it's stupid where the cases are all idiotic, but at least the characters are good. It's a really well done, charming, sweet series. So I loved it. I genuinely loved it, and I am loving it. We're currently on season 2, so I hope it doesn't get worse, but it also helps so much when you love the main cast, because believe me, like, I think a lot of cases would become a bit more mediocre if the cast was unlikable. Like, when you hit an unlikable cast in a series, like, everything starts popping out to you, like plot holes, conveniences, how stupid certain things are. But I love the entire main cast here, okay? All the main policemen, Raphael and Astrid, love them. Love them. Excellent. And that kind of makes the series. We have made it to the anime section. I think it's going to be just 2 that I'm talking about, because I could make like a whole video about anime that I'm watching, about bad anime that I'm watching, and my thoughts, but I'm just not that interested about getting into controversial topics with anime, because there are many. So let's just discuss the basics. You will need the context for this. You will need the context for this because this is a hear me out section, okay? If you know anything about this anime, you will know why I am making that disclaimer. Let's talk about Goblin Slayer, okay? Like this is slightly embarrassing for me to admit, but also it's not, because I do have reasoning. You know, like I don't just enjoy things for the hell of it. So this is a very controversial anime because it's severe on the fan service. Like the manga is worse. I think it's full on like ecchi. I couldn't read it. But the anime, and hear me out, isn't as bad with the fan service as long as that like priestess isn't around, okay? Hear me out. Stay with me. There's two contextual things that I need to say when I'm talking about why I liked Goblin Slayer that much. Okay, the first one is I watched Frieren right before Goblin Slayer, and they're both like, I mean, you can get mad about this, but they're both RPG series. Like, it feels like I'm reading someone's D&D campaign, essentially. Frieren is currently like the #1 rated anime in the world ever. And while I'm not going to discuss it and get into it, it's important to note that I watched Frieren right before this, and that they're both like RPG stuff, you know, like with the maid, with the knight, with the dwarf, with the whatever, with the elf, because I liked this more than Frieren. Saying stuff like that could have you stoned in the anime community, but that is because the anime community is not connected to reality, where there is no objective truth, okay? I'm gonna need you to get off your high horse and just listen to what I have to say, okay? The fact that Frieren is the #1 rated anime of all time does not mean that I'm going to keep talking now that I've bought myself like some talking space on the phone. It irks me so much to have a full phone. Anyway, we're going to be hearing me out about Goblin Slayer. Now, does Frieren have objectively better animation, better world building, no fan service? Yes. Yes. But all of these things do not necessarily mean you will enjoy something more. They're great additions. They're great additions. I would never have fan service in any anime if I could pick it, if I could choose. But the one key thing that Goblin Slayer had that Frieren didn't is a cast that I loved. Okay? Characters that I actually grew attached to. Now, Goblin Slayer is a lot more open about being an RPG, like to the extent that the main character doesn't even have a face or a name. It's supposed to like be the main character. You're supposed to self-insert. But I cannot tell you how much I loved this main cast. Like the concept of found family was just so simply done in Goblin Slayer that I loved everything that they did. And this is why I mean that the fan service isn't as big of a problem as you would think. Now, aside from the infamous sexual assault scene in the first episode, which I saw that it was infamous, like on IMDb, one of the first things that it says is like it has this infamous scene in episode 1. I didn't know about that. So I will confess that I almost stopped watching at that point because I did not know. I was not warned. But I will be the first or the second, whatever, to tell you that that is like an isolated incident. Like that never happens again. So I don't know why it was necessary. I almost didn't watch after that. But it never happens again. Like it never happens again. Obviously it's implied, but it never happens again. You never have to see that again. But the main cast is exempt from the fan service, and that is why I ended up loving the series so much, because the main cast has like one lizard man, a dwarf, goblin slayer, and 2 girls, one of whom is an elf and the other is like a young sorceress. both of the girls are exempt from the fan service, which shocked me. I was fully prepared to like see up their skirts every single time that they were in a fight scene. It never happens. Like the main girl, who's 15 years old, she's never sexualized, only like in the brief context that she's like in danger of being violated, but it's always seen as like a horrendous thing, and she's never sexualized by any of the other like teammates in her cast, and the elf who's like flat as a board, and it's like a bit of a gag that she's like flat as a board. Not a bad thing, and she's never sexualized either. Like the series is weird. It has like very simple world building. It's an RPG, and there are goblins that go around assaulting women. Don't ask me why that was the RPG that the author chose to go for. But like that aside, because again, you only really are like violated with that scene in the first episode and never again. Which, by the way, you could fully skip the first episode because they do come back to it. Like, you find out how. Like, basically what happens is that, like, the main character goes with her friends, and they're really inexperienced, and they're ambushed, and they're all killed, and Goblin Slayer saves the main girl. And another thing that I have to really, really commend it for is also, yeah, there's a bit of fan service, like with the character who lives with the goblins. It doesn't matter. Basically, the core theme isn't fan service. That's all that matters to me. Okay, I love their bond and found family dynamics so much. I'm also happy that they don't like ditch each other halfway through. They're actually together throughout. I think there's 2 seasons and a film. And I just love them, okay? Anytime they're together, I adore them. I love each member individually. I love them as a team. One other thing that has to be praised is how they handled, like, the main priestess being a lot more inexperienced than the others, but still being a part of their team, because, like, there's ranks in an RPG, and they're all, like, silver ranks or whatever, and she's, like, the bottom rank. But she contributes. Like, they handled the fact that she has, like, what, two or three spells so beautifully, because she has to be creative about using them, and like their teamwork is just so well done, in my opinion, that I just love them as a group. Okay, I love them as a group, and it reminds me of how I love every single character of the group in The Witcher, because they all contribute something. They all work together really well. They never leave anyone behind. They protect each other super well. And again, the priestess, like, she isn't seen as weak or useless because she knows 2 spells. They just know how to utilize her spells, like when she has to use them, and they protect her. And it isn't like a shameful thing that they protect her. It's just because, like, she's new and inexperienced, but they value her as a member of their team, even though they're all like high ranked slayers or whatever it's called. They value her for her 2 spells. And it's so sweet to look at how she is a member of their team, even though she's like low ranked. Because often these series will do a thing where it's like, you just have to be protected, like you're pathetic, like you're kind of a burden. They never treat her like that. And then when she gets like a 3rd spell, it's so cool. And it's seen as like this sweet power up. Like, they all treat it like really in a lovely way, where they're like, oh, you're going to contribute so much more to the team. This is going to be so cool. Like, they hype her up so much. And there was this episode where she goes like with other inexperienced travelers, slayers. I really don't know what they're called. Travelers. And I was afraid that, like, she's going to have to stay with them because she's inexperienced. But this is her family, okay? This is her family, and she's going to be with them and stick with them. And they don't think of her as a burden. Like, I loved this team to bits, okay? Like, if this gets more seasons, and I hope it does, even though it's so random and so weird, and it has such a specific... Jebem mater! I am physically incapable of speaking when someone opens the door. I don't know why that is. I feel like I need, like, complete isolation to be able to talk to myself. I really don't know what that is. Like, there's people who film in public. I think I'd rather kill myself. I got off track, but point being, when she gets that 3rd spell, it's just such a lovely moment, and she gets to utilize it, and they like immediately look for strategies so they can incorporate her third spell into like the mix and everything. And it's just, they celebrate when she gets promoted. It's just so lovely. I love the relationships of everyone in this team. Also, all the voice actors are like superb. For the main team, I'm not going to list things, but the actor for Goblin Slayer is, I think, my second favorite voice actor, like, in all of anime. Like, we know who my favorite is, but he's like up there. He's up there. He's definitely like my second favorite. I love the sound of his voice so much. And Goblin Slayer as a character laughs super rarely. I think he laughs once, either at the end of the film or in season 2, and it took me by surprise so much because he never laughs that like I needed to do a double take because I was like, what is that sound? What is that sound? As you can see, I'm actually gushing about it, kind of, you know? Like, I never expected this. After that first episode and after I saw like what reputation it has and what the manga is like online, I was like, it's a hot take to say that I enjoyed this so much that I'm going to put it like into my favorite things that I've seen so far this year. But, and again, the comparison with Frieren has to come in. That is why it stuck with me. I watched both of them this year. That is why this stuck with me, because I just love the characters so much that I would watch 17 seasons with them. I think the only character I actually not even liked, but enjoyed in Frieren was Frieren. I did not like any of the other characters. So again, Goblin Slayer had the one thing that Frieren didn't for me. Like, the one thing that's most important, that's most subjective about a series that no one can tell you to think otherwise about, is how much do you like the characters? How attached did you grow to them? And the final thing that I have to say about this is that the relationship like between Goblin Slayer and the priestess, it is precious. Okay, it is precious to me. I think he sees like his sister in her, and she sees him as like a protector, as brother, friend, whatever. It's whatever it is. Every little moment that they have together, where it's so precious to me. Okay, so lovely. It's not as developed as it could be because Goblin Slayer is kept so vague for the self-insert purpose. But every little moment where like she goes up to him when he's alone, where he learns to enjoy her company even though he's like such a lone wolf, he accepts, like, they're a two-man team until the others come in. Like, he accepts her help, and he accepts that she goes with him. He appreciates her, he protects her, he really grows to love her, I think, like in the second half. He lets her into his solitude, and she like comforts him, she asks him questions, she bursts through the bubble that I think no one really tries to burst through successfully, and is just such a sweet little addition, like their bond. I think shockingly, I might like be in the top fans for this anime, because it's one of those things where like I understand the criticisms and I agree with them. Just like I understand the praise for Frieren, because it's technically well put together and good at what it does. Like, I understand both the praise and the criticism for these two animes. The one thing that you cannot force in other people by claiming that you're being objective is attachment to characters. And my attachment to the Goblin Slayer team is like enormous. Okay, to this day I still feel like warmth in my chest when I remember their interactions. So I needed to articulate this. I really did, because I'm fully aware of what it sounds like when I say that I like Goblin Slayer more than Frieren. So these are my arguments. The last one is, I hope, a little less controversial. But I fell in love with this series like at the beginning of this month, June. And then I watched like the last few episodes as they were coming out, and that is Shoshimin, which I think is like, I don't know if Shoshimin is like the title or if the translation is How to Be Ordinary, but this series basically. I do not remember how I found it. I don't know if it was suggested somewhere or if I was just scrolling through Mal and saw stuff that was coming out, or if I saw it on Instagram. I have no idea how I actually started to watch this, but I just put it on. I did not know what it was about. I did not know what it was about. I didn't know the voice actors because like I don't know the younger generation yet. And I fully did not know what it was about. When I found out that it was about platonic soulmates, about a man and a woman being platonic soulmates, I was sat. Okay, that is a thing that is severely lacking in storytelling, and the thing that I love deeply every time that it's written well. And also halfway through I was like, this has such a Hyoka feel. And then yes, it was done by the author of Hyoka, so there is a trademark. Yes, all his male characters are INTJs, which is kind of funny to me, but anyway. Unlike Hyoka, where it has like an opposites attract thing, this is quite the opposite. This is like a twin flame thing. Like they're so similar and complementary as people. They understand each other perfectly. Like one of them can think something and the other one's gonna be like, "You're thinking this, aren't you?" Like they're such twin flames, platonic soulmate energy as a pair. They complement each other. They help each other. They uplift each other. They're genuinely like the only reason but each of them will like earnestly laugh and smile. You never see them not fake a smile unless they're with each other. It's I was obsessed with this. Like I remember I watched stuff like this before bed, mostly. I watch anime before bed. It just puts me to sleep. There's something about the act of reading subtitles that like puts you to sleep. But I binged it. I binged season 1, and then I was dejected when I started season 2 and they weren't together. But I will say one thing, muscle through the episodes where they're not together, when they're with those two annoying, horrendous characters, because the payoff is so worth it. Like the author of Hyoka has like a very creative way of making a high school story be a mystery. It's kind of clever. It can be annoying at times because like they're hyper analyzing how someone made hot chocolate without dirtying the sink, but it's a clever way of making like a high school story while still making it a detective narrative. But it actually has some darker things than Hyoka does, and their relationship is way more developed than I think anything in Hyoka was. It's so well done how much they actually mean to each other. They have this thing, I might put it up on the screen, I might not, where they like have a landscape where they go together. It's sort of like a mindscape, mind palace, I suppose, if you want to go the Sherlockian way. It's like their safe place with this tower and with this water where they go together. And when they reunite and they're finally in that place again, like I felt so moved just because like they found their way back to each other. And their like love confessions are so precious and so well done and so beautifully written. I felt giddy as if I was watching a romance, but because it wasn't a romance, it somehow meant much more to me. Like there's this scene in season 1 when they're riding on a bike and everyone thinks that they're dating, because of course everyone thinks that they're dating. People can't be close to each other without dating, especially men and women. And where they're driving the bike and they're like, "Oh, they think we're dating," and he's like, "I know. Would you ever want a relationship or something like that?" And he's like, "No, I wouldn't want something like that." And she's like, "Me neither." I remember that moment and I felt so overjoyed when I heard them say that, and their love confession like on the bench in the second season when they decide that they are just the best people for each other, that they can't be ordinary and that that's fine, and that they can just be not ordinary together because they understand each other. Like that whole scene was so precious. Like when she tells him, "You're like my next best thing," and he tells her that he thinks he needs her, and then they start just laughing because they're like, "Dude, how this sounds." And then the entire ending, and when she says, like I watched this the other day, the finale, when she says like, "Come find me, I'll make a maze for you and you will have to find me," and I haven't felt like this about a pairing that isn't romantic in ever, probably, because it's just so rare. It's so rare. It's so rare to see platonic soulmates in fiction, and I appreciated it so much. I immediately downloaded it. You know, I loved an anime when I immediately downloaded it to my computer, and I would recommend it to absolutely everyone who likes what I just said. So it gives like the reasons that other people find them strange is exactly why they love each other. It's just so wonderful, and they can actually tease each other without taking offense because they understand why the other's saying what they're saying. And one thing I have to say is, like, especially with Osanai and the boy, like her, like the payoff for that, I won't spoil it, but the payoff for that was so good. Okay, it was so satisfying to watch. It was beautiful. Beautiful. I have nothing but the best to say about this. I ranted about it less than Goblin Slayer because I felt like I had to explain myself with Goblin Slayer, but this just owns my heart. And it is such a goddamn shame that the author of Hyokai writes like one novel per 15 years, because I would watch 17 more seasons of the two of them in university. Okay, I love them so much. So much. And it's going to be on my rewatch list because they just mean so much to me as characters and as a pair and as a representation of a relationship that pretty much never gets done. That is it. That is it for the video. The video is going to be 1 hour long, isn't it? Just because of the Goblin Slayer rant. I'm just laughing at like editing me when it does say that it's an hour long. So we will not dawdle on the outro. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was fun. I love talking about different forms of media because, yes, books are my main thing because I write and read a lot. But I watch so many films and so many series that I do kind of like talking about my favorites. I could trash talk for 3 hours probably about the stuff that was bad. But for like the occasional video that I do on films and TV series, I would like to just gush about the stuff because I don't know. I love talking about why I love things, and I think it's more easy to do good recommendations rather than just bitch and whine about bad ones. So I hope you found either something new to watch or a kindred spirit who likes these things. So I would love to hear your thoughts on any of these, and if you have like arguments to counteract my arguments, feel free. But I like to think that we have evolved as individuals to a point where we do not take opinions personally. So I will see you in the next video.